The gun was pointed at Jordina's chest when she realized she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. 3 months ago, all she did was whisper a song. Now she was tied to a chair in an abandoned warehouse, barely able to breathe, watching the man she loved prepare to die for her. But to understand how a stupid $500 dare turned into the most dangerous love story ever told, we need to go back to where it all began. December 23rd, Hanami Palace Restaurant, downtown Los Angeles. The Christmas lights twinkled against the windows, casting warm glows across tables where rich people ate $40 ramen and pretended they understood culture. Jordina Alexander moved between tables with practiced efficiency, her smile fake but convincing. She was 28, Black American, broke and running on fumes. Her feet ached from the double shift. Her asthma inhaler sat in her apron pocket with maybe 3 puffs left, and the eviction notice she'd found under her door that morning felt like it was burning a hole through her thoughts. $1,200. That's what she needed in 2 days or she'd be homeless. She had $73 in her bank account and absolutely no idea where the rest would come from. Jordina, girl, get over here. Jessica, her coworker, grabbed her arm and yanked her toward the break room. The entire evening staff had crammed inside, giggling like conspirators planning a heist. What's going on? Jordina asked, exhaustion making her words slow. She just wanted to finish her shift and collapse. We have a proposition, Stephen said. He was the head waiter, always stirring up drama, always grinning like life was one big joke. I'm too tired for whatever this is. It involves $500. Jessica's eyes sparkled with mischief. Jordina's exhaustion evaporated. I'm listening. Stephen leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You know table 7, right? Every muscle in Jordina's body tensed. That's one table everyone avoided. The table where Rim Hyun conducted his business. Business that involved hushed conversations in Korean, envelopes stuffed with cash, and men who looked like they killed people before breakfast. Because they probably did. Absolutely not, Jordina said immediately. Whatever you're thinking, the answer is no. We'll pool our money right now. 500 cash. Jessica pulled out a wad of bills and waved it like bait. All you have to do is walk up to him and whisper something in his ear. Are you people insane? He'll kill me. Of course he won't kill you. Stephen rolled his eyes jokingly. At least he won't kill you in the middle of the restaurant, he said, though he didn't sound entirely convinced. Besides, he's been in a terrible mood all week. We just want to see his reaction. Reaction to what? What am I supposed to whisper? Jessica's grin widened dangerously. All I want for Christmas is you. Jordina stared at her. The Mariah Carey song. Yes, the very one. The Mariah Carey song. You want me to whisper a Christmas love song to a literal mafia boss who probably has a body count higher than his age? For $500, Stephen added helpfully, counting the bills. This was insane. This was beyond insane. Hyun was dangerous. Everyone knew it. The way people's voices dropped when he entered a room. The way his own men looked terrified of disappointing him. The cold, empty look in his eyes that said he'd seen and done things normal people couldn't imagine. But $500. Rent, medicine, food. If I die, Jordina said slowly, you're all paying for my funeral. They cheered like she'd agreed to do karaoke instead of potentially signing her death warrant. The money changed hands, bills pressed into her palm. Real, tangible, enough to keep her from any asthma crisis for a little while longer. Jordina walked back onto the floor, her heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to escape. The restaurant had emptied out. It was almost closing time. Just a few lingering tables and Hyun's booth in the corner. He sat alone, scrolling through his phone with focused intensity. 2 of his men stood nearby, massive guys in expensive suits with the kind of stillness that came from being ready to kill at a moment's notice. This was so stupid. This was monumentally stupid. But did she stop? No. She needs that money. She started moving, grabbing a water pitcher to give herself a reason to approach. Each step felt like wading through cement. Her hands started shaking before she was even halfway there. She could still turn back. She could still walk away. $500. She reached the table. Hyun didn't look up. He never looked up at servers. They were beneath his notice, part of the furniture. Georgina had served his table exactly once in 6 months, and he'd acknowledged her existence with a single nod. "Can I refill your water, sir?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. He nodded without looking up. Permission granted. She poured water into his glass, her hands trembling so badly she nearly spilled it everywhere. The ice clinked against the sides. The sound felt deafening in the quiet corner of the restaurant. This was her moment. Do it. Get the money. Get out. Georgina leaned in close enough to smell his cologne. Something expensive and woody that probably cost more than her monthly paycheck. Close enough to see the perfect cut of his jaw, the slight shadow of stubble, the way his eyelashes were surprisingly long against his cheeks. Close enough to whisper directly into his ear. "All I want for Christmas is you." The world stopped. Hyun's body went completely rigid. The phone in his hand clattered onto the table. His other hand, reaching for the water glass, froze midair like someone had pressed pause on reality. His men reacted instantly. The one on the left moved his jacket aside, and Georgina saw the gun holstered there. The one on the right took a step forward, hand already moving toward his own weapon. Oh God. Oh no. What had she done? Georgina's chest tightened. Not now. Please, not now. But her asthma didn't care about timing or terror. Her lungs seized up, airways constricting. The room tilted. She stumbled backward, hand diving into her apron pocket for her inhaler. But her fingers were clumsy with panic. The inhaler slipped, fell, clattered on the floor. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Black spots danced across her vision. Hyun said something in Korean, sharp and commanding. His voice cut through her panic like a blade. One of his men grabbed her arm. Georgina tried to pull away, tried to run, but he was already pressing something into her hand. An inhaler. A new, full, prescription-strength inhaler still in its package. She stared at it stupidly for a second before survival instinct overrode confusion. She ripped it open, brought it to her lips, pressed down. Once, twice. The medicine hit her lungs, opening them up. Air rushed in. Sweet, beautiful air. The world slowly came back into focus. Hyun was standing. He'd actually stood up for her. This man who probably hadn't stood for anyone in years, who made grown men wet themselves with a look, was on his feet. And he was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. Not anger exactly. Something else. Something that made her chest tight for an entirely different reason. "What?" he said slowly, his English heavily accented but precise, each word carefully shaped. "Did you just say?" Georgina's mouth felt like it was full of sand. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It was a dare. My coworkers, they dared me. I needed the money. I didn't mean." "Say it again." His voice was soft, dangerously soft. "I can't. I'm sorry. Please, I'll leave. I'll quit. Just please don't. Say. Again." This was it. This was how she died. Murdered in a restaurant over a Mariah Carey song. Her mother was going to be so disappointed. "All I want for Christmas," Georgina whispered, tears burning her eyes, "is you." Something flickered across Hyun's face. Something raw and broken that disappeared so fast she might have imagined it. His jaw clenched. His hands, she noticed, were shaking slightly. Actually shaking. "What's your name?" he asked. "Georgina. Georgina Alexander." He stared at her for a long moment, those dark eyes boring into her soul like he was reading every secret she'd ever kept. Then he reached into his jacket and Georgina's heart stopped because this was it. He was getting his gun. She was dead. But he pulled out a wallet instead, withdrew a stack of bills, dropped them on the table. $1,000. Maybe more. "For the song," he said quietly. Then he walked past her, his men following, and disappeared into the night. Georgina stood there, shaking, alive, utterly confused. The money sat on the table like evidence of something she didn't understand. Stephen and Jessica rushed over the moment Hyun's car pulled away. "Oh my God! You're alive! What happened? What did he say?" But Georgina couldn't answer. She was staring at the money, at the inhaler still clutched in her hand, wondering what the hell she'd just unleashed. The next morning, Georgina woke up to find her rent had been paid. All of it. The apartment building manager called, sounding confused. Someone paid 3 months in advance. cash, and wouldn't give a name. Georgina sat on her bed, phone pressed to her ear, stomach churning. Who? Anonymous donor. That's all they said. When she opened her apartment door to grab the newspaper, she found a package. Plain brown box. No return address. Inside were 12 prescription-strength inhalers. Medical grade. The kind that cost $200 each. Over $2,000 worth of medicine just sitting on her doorstep. What the hell? Georgina whispered to her empty apartment. She went to work that evening with her nerves wound tight. The restaurant felt different. Wrong. She kept expecting Hyun to show up, to demand answers, to collect whatever debt she'd unknowingly incurred. He showed up at exactly 7 p.m. Walked in like he owned the place, which Georgina learned from Steven's frantic whispering he kind of did. Hyun owned a stake in the restaurant. That's why Table 7 was always reserved. That's why nobody questioned his business meetings. And he requested Georgina's section. Absolutely not, Georgina said to the manager. Get Jessica to do it. He specifically asked for you. The manager looked terrified. Please, Georgina, don't make this difficult. So Georgina found herself approaching Table 7 again, her heart doing that hammering thing that was becoming way too familiar. Hyun sat in his usual spot, but this time he was alone. No men, no guards, just him, looking devastating in a black suit, reading a menu like he didn't have it memorized. Can I take your order? Georgina asked, keeping her voice professional. He looked up, actually looked at her this time. His eyes were just as intense in the light as they'd been last night. Sit. I'm working. I own 20% of this restaurant. Sit. Georgina glanced around. The manager was watching, nodding frantically. She sat, perching on the edge of the booth like she might need to run. The rent, Hyun said. The medicine. You'll accept them. It wasn't a question. I can't accept gifts from strangers. We're not strangers. You whispered to me. That makes us something. That makes us nothing. It was a dare. His jaw tightened. I know. Your co-workers were very forthcoming when I asked them. Georgina's blood ran cold. You didn't hurt them. I paid them to tell me the truth. They're fine. He leaned back, studying her. Why did you need $500 so badly you'd risk your life? I wasn't risking my life. Yes, you were. You just didn't know it. The honesty of that statement hit her like a slap. I needed rent money. And medicine. I'm asthmatic. I noticed. His expression softened slightly. Your inhaler was almost empty. That's dangerous. I couldn't afford a refill. Something flickered in his eyes. Anger, maybe, but not at her. Healthcare in this country is criminal. Says the actual criminal. The words were out before Georgina could stop them. She slapped a hand over her mouth, horror flooding through her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean. But Hyun laughed. Actually laughed. It was a rusty sound like he didn't do it often, but it was real. You're honest. I like that. I'm stupid. I should learn to shut up. Don't. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Everyone else is too afraid to speak to me like I'm human. It's refreshing. Georgina didn't know what to say to that. This close, she could see details she'd never noticed before. A small tattoo above his left eyebrow. The tired shadows under his eyes. The way his shoulders held tension like he was constantly preparing for a fight. Why that song? He asked quietly. Of all the things they could have dared you to say, why that one? I don't know. They thought it would be funny, I guess. It's also the festive season. And... She stopped, watching his expression close off. I'm sorry. Did I say something wrong? My sister. The words came out rough like they hurt to say. She used to sing that song. Constantly. Every Christmas, all day long. She had asthma too. Same inhalers you use. Georgina's chest tightened. Used to. On Christmas Day 3 years ago. She was killed. His voice was flat now, emotionless, but his hands were clenched on the table. Rival gang. They wanted to hurt me, so they took the only person I loved. I'm so sorry. She was 22. Beautiful. Kind. Everything I wasn't. Everything I couldn't be. He looked at Georgina with those devastating eyes. For 3 years, I felt nothing. Just emptiness. I built my empire on ice and blood because feeling was too dangerous. Too painful. And then I whispered a stupid song. And then you whispered that song. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt something. He reached across the table, not touching her, just close enough that she could feel the warmth of his hand near hers. Do you understand how dangerous that is? For me? For you? Jordina's mouth was dry. I don't want to be involved in whatever this is. Too late. He pulled his hand back, expression hardening. The moment you approached my table, you became involved. The moment I showed interest, you became a target. A target for what? Rivals. Enemies. People who want to hurt me. He stood, buttoning his jacket. Go home, Jordina. Pack a bag. My men will pick you up at midnight. Excuse me? I'm not going anywhere with you. Yes, you are. Because if you stay in that apartment alone, you'll be dead by morning. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather. I've already made enemies uncomfortable by paying your rent, by showing interest. They're watching, waiting for an opportunity. This is insane. I just whispered a song. And I reacted. That's all they need to know. That I care about something again. That gives them leverage. Hyun's voice softened. I'm not asking, Jordina. I'm telling you. You're coming with me, or I'll have my men drag you out of your apartment at gunpoint. Your choice. He walked away before she could argue. Jordina sat there, shaking, trying to process what just happened. The manager approached cautiously. Miss Alexander? Are you all right? I think I just got kidnapped by a mafia boss. Oh. The manager nodded like this was normal. Well, you should probably listen to him. Mr. Rim doesn't make idle threats. That night, Jordina packed a bag with trembling hands. This was crazy. She should call the police. She should run. But something in Hyun's eyes had been genuine. The fear. The certainty. He really believed she was in danger. At exactly midnight, a black SUV pulled up outside her building. 2 men in suits got out. One of them was the guy who'd given her the inhaler. The other was an American. Miss Alexander, he said politely, we're here to escort you to safety. And if I refuse? Please don't make this difficult. Boss was very clear. You come willingly or we carry you. We'd prefer willingly. Jordina grabbed her bag. This is kidnapping. This is protection. He opened the car door. There's a difference. The drive took 40 minutes. They went into the hills, where houses became estates and estates became fortresses. Hyun's home was a modern glass and steel structure that probably cost more than Jordina would make in 10 lifetimes. Security was everywhere. Cameras. Guards. This wasn't a home. It was a bunker. Hyun met her at the door. He changed into casual clothes, black pants and a simple shirt, but somehow looked even more dangerous. You came. I was kidnapped. Semantics. He gestured inside. Your room is upstairs. Second door on the left. Private bathroom. Lock on the door. You're safe here. I don't feel safe. You will. He led her through the house. Everything was expensive and cold. Beautiful but empty. Like a museum. There are rules. Don't leave the property without security. Don't answer the door. Don't tell anyone where you are. For how long? Until I eliminate the threat. Which means what? You're going to kill people because I whispered a song. Hyun stopped, turned to face her. I'm going to kill people because they think you're my weakness. And in my world, weaknesses get exploited. Violently. I'm not your weakness. I'm nothing to you. You're right. You should be nothing to me. He stepped closer, close enough that Jordina could smell that expensive cologne again. But when you whispered those words, something in me broke open. Something I'd buried. And now I can't stop thinking about you. About that voice. About the way you looked at me like I was human instead of a monster. Jordina's breath caught. You are human. Debatable. He turned away. Get some sleep. We'll talk in the morning. But Jordina couldn't sleep. She lay in the massive bed in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how her life had gone from normal to insane in 24 hours. She got up at 3 a.m., wandering the house, and heard music. Piano music. She followed the sound to a room at the end of the hall. Hyun sat at a grand piano, playing something beautiful and sad. His eyes were closed, his fingers moving across the keys with the same precision he used for everything else. "I didn't know you played," Georgina said from the doorway. He didn't stop playing. "My sister taught me. She was the talented one. I just remembered what she showed me. It's beautiful. It's all I have left of her." His hands stilled on the keys. "I can't sleep anymore. Not since she died. 3, maybe 4 hours a night. The rest of the time I'm here, playing her favorite songs, pretending she's still alive to hear them." Georgina walked into the room, sat on the bench beside him. "Play the Mariah Carey song." "I don't know it." "Then I'll teach you." She placed her fingers over his, guiding them to the right keys. "It goes like this." They sat there in the dark, Georgina teaching Hyun how to play the song that had started everything, and for just a moment he didn't look like a mafia boss. He looked like a man who'd lost everything and was desperately trying to find his way back to being human. Over the next few days, Georgina learned things about Hyun that surprised her. He donated anonymously to children's hospitals. He watched American sitcoms to learn English idioms and got them hilariously wrong. He ate the same breakfast every morning, rice, fish, and kimchi, with the precision of a ritual. He was learning to cook because his sister had loved cooking and he wanted to remember her recipes. "Try this," he said one evening, holding out a spoon of something that smelled amazing. They were in his massive kitchen. He'd been attempting japchae for an hour. Georgina tasted it. "That's really good." "You're lying." "I'm not. It's great. My sister's was better." But he smiled, and the smile transformed his face, made him look younger, less dangerous. "She would have liked you." "How do you know?" "Because you're not afraid of me." He set the spoon down, turning to face her. "Everyone else is terrified. But you argue with me. You call me out. You treat me like I'm normal. You are normal. You're just also a criminal." "There's nothing normal about what I do, Georgina." "Maybe not. But there's something normal about you." She touched his hand, and he flinched like she'd burned him. "You're not a monster. Monsters don't mourn. They don't play piano at 3 a.m. They don't learn to cook their dead sister's recipes. You don't know the things I've done. I don't need to. I know who you are right now in this moment. That's enough." Hyun looked at her like she was something precious and terrifying. Then he leaned in, slowly, giving her time to pull away. Georgina didn't pull away. His lips touched hers, soft and careful, like he was afraid she'd break. The kiss deepened. His hands came up to cup her face, and Georgina's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. He tasted like cinnamon and danger and something she couldn't name but wanted more of. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Hyun pressed his forehead to hers. "This is a mistake. Probably. I'll only hurt you. Maybe. You should run. Far away from me." "I'm not going anywhere." Georgina pulled back to look at him. "I'm exactly where I want to be." "Then God help us both." For 2 weeks, they existed in a bubble. Hyun still conducted business, calls, meetings, things Georgina didn't ask about. But when he was with her, he was different. Softer. They watched Christmas movies together. He taught her Korean phrases. She taught him about Black American culture, and he listened with genuine fascination. They cooked together, kissed in the kitchen, made love in his bedroom with a tenderness that surprised them both. "I'm falling in love with you," Hyun whispered one night, holding her in the dark. "I didn't think I could feel this again. But you make me want impossible things." "Like what?" "Like a normal life. Like walking away from all of this. Like deserving someone as good as you." Georgina kissed his chest, right over his heart. "You deserve good things." "I've killed people, Georgina. I've done terrible things." "I know. And you still. I still love you. I don't know how it happened so fast. But I do. I love you." He held her tighter, and Georgina felt wetness on her hair. Hyun was crying. This dangerous, terrifying man was crying in her arms like all the walls he'd built had finally crumbled. But nothing good lasts forever. 3 days later, Georgina woke up alone. Hyun was gone, his side of the bed cold. She found a note on the pillow. "Had to handle business. Stay inside. I'll be back tonight. Hyun." She spent the day reading, watching TV, trying not to worry. But as evening came and went with no word from Hyun, anxiety crept in. She called his phone. No answer. Called again. Still nothing. At midnight, the power went out. Georgina grabbed her phone, using the flashlight to navigate the dark house. Hello? Is anyone there? No answer from the guards who should have been posted outside. Then she heard it. Glass breaking from downstairs. Her asthma flared immediately, panic constricting her chest. She fumbled for her inhaler, hands shaking. 1 puff. 2. Breathe. Think. The bedroom had a lock. She could barricade herself inside, call the police. But footsteps were already coming up the stairs. Multiple sets. Georgina ran for the bedroom, but hands grabbed her from behind. She screamed, thrashing, trying to fight. Something sharp pricked her neck. A needle. The world went fuzzy and her legs gave out. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was a voice speaking in Korean, cold and amused. When Georgina woke up, she was tied to a chair in what looked like an abandoned building. Her head throbbed. Her mouth tasted like chemicals. And standing in front of her, smiling, was a man she'd never seen before. "Hello, Georgina," he said in perfect English. "I'm Jin-ho. I work for Hyun. Or I did, until he became weak." "Where is he?" "Coming for you, I imagine. That's the plan." Jin-ho crouched in front of her. "See, Hyun and I have worked together for 8 years. I've been his second-in-command, his friend, his confidant. And I've been in love with him for just as long." Georgina's stomach dropped. "He doesn't." "No? Oh, I'm aware. Hyun only sees me as a brother, as a tool. But then you came along." Jin-ho's expression twisted with hate. "You whispered a stupid song and suddenly he's human again. Suddenly he feels things, wants you, and that makes him weak, vulnerable, unfit to lead. This is insane. This is necessary. The families are already questioning his judgment, wondering if he's lost his edge. I'm going to prove them right." Jin-ho stood, pulling out a gun. "When Hyun arrives to save you, I'm going to kill you, take over his territory. And then I'll kill him too, slowly. So his last thoughts are of failing to protect the woman he loved." "You're sick." "I'm practical." The building door exploded open an hour later. Hyun walked in flanked by 4 of his men, and Georgina had never seen him look like this. His suit was disheveled, blood splattered across his shirt. She couldn't tell if it was his or someone else's. But his eyes, God. His eyes were wild with a rage that made her previous fear of him seem laughable. "Let her go, Jin-ho." Hyun's voice was deadly calm, the kind of calm that came before hurricanes. Jin-ho pressed the gun against Georgina's temple. She whimpered, trying to stay still, trying to breathe through her rising panic. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice? You've been distracted for weeks. Soft. Making mistakes. The only mistake I made was trusting you. You made a mistake the day you chose her over everything we built together." Jin-ho's composure cracked. 8 years, Hyun. 8 years I stood by you, killed for you, bled for you. And some waitress whispers a song and suddenly I don't matter. You were my brother, Jin-ho. You always mattered. Not the way I wanted to matter. Jin-ho's hand trembled on the gun. "I loved you. I've always loved you. And you never even saw me." Hyun's expression flickered with something like pity. "I didn't know. Would it have changed anything if you did?" "No." The honesty was brutal. "I'm sorry, but no." Then she dies. Jin-ho's finger moved to the trigger. Everything happened at once. Georgina threw her weight sideways, tipping the chair. The gun went off, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. She hit the ground hard, stars exploding across her vision. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard shouting, more gunshots, and the sounds of a fight. Then silence. "Georgina. Georgina. Look at me." Hyun was cutting through her restraints, his hands surprisingly gentle despite their urgency. "Are you hit? Tell me you're not hit." She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Asthma attack hitting full force from the terror and the fall. She pointed to her pocket where she kept her inhaler but couldn't reach it with her hands still partially bound. Hyun grabbed it, pressed it to her lips. "Breathe, baby. Breathe. I've got you. Just breathe." 1 puff. 2. Slowly, mercifully, air returned. The world came back into focus. Jin-ho lay on the ground 10 feet away, unconscious, zip-tied by Hyun's men. Blood pooled under his shoulder where someone had shot him. He'll live. To stand trial. Hyun pulled Jordina into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe for an entirely different reason. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. All of it. You saved me. I put you in danger. He pulled back to look at her, and his eyes were wet. Jin-ho was right. I've been weak. Distracted. I should have seen this coming. You're not weak. You're human. In my world, there's no difference. He helped her stand, kept an arm around her waist when she swayed. This isn't over. Jin-ho wasn't working alone. He had backing from rival families, people who want to see me fall. As long as you're with me, you're a target. Jordina's chest tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying you should leave. Tonight. I'll give you money, new identity, set you up anywhere in the world you want to go. But you need to disappear. And you? I'll handle my enemies. Clean up this mess. And then, he stopped, jaw clenching. And then I'll try to forget what it felt like to be human for a little while. No. Jordina grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. No, you don't get to push me away. Not after everything. I'm trying to keep you alive. I don't care about alive if it means losing you. The words came out raw, desperate. I know what you are. I know the world you live in. I'm not stupid, Hyun. I knew the risks when I fell in love with you. You can't possibly understand. Then help me understand. Let me in. All the way. Stop trying to protect me from who you are and just let me choose you anyway. Hyun stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. Why? Why would you choose this? Choose me? Because when I'm with you, I feel alive. Because you look at me like I'm precious. Because you play piano at 3 a.m. and cry over your sister and try so hard to be good even though your world tells you to be a monster. Jordina's voice broke. Because I love you, you idiot. And I'm not going anywhere unless you physically throw me out. Jordina. I mean it. You want me gone. You're gonna have to drag me kicking and screaming. And I will scream. So loud your neighbors will call the cops. Despite everything, Hyun laughed. It was a broken sound, but real. You're insane. I'm in love. Same thing. She kissed him, tasting salt from tears. His or hers, she couldn't tell. We figure this out together. Okay. No more protecting me by pushing me away. We're a team now. This is a terrible idea. Most of my ideas are terrible. But I'm committed now. He held her face in his hands, looking at her like he couldn't quite believe she was real. If you stay, things are going to get worse before they get better. Jin-ho's betrayal has created a power vacuum. Families are going to test me. There will be violence. Then we handle it. You could die. I could also get hit by a bus tomorrow. Life doesn't come with guarantees. You're not taking this seriously enough. I'm taking it exactly seriously enough. Which is why I need you to promise me something. Jordina held his gaze. No more secrets. No more trying to handle everything alone. We're partners. That means you let me in even when it's ugly. Especially when it's ugly. Deal? Hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Deal. But you have to promise me something too. What? If I tell you to run, you run. No arguments. No heroics. You survive. That's non-negotiable. Jordina wanted to argue, but she saw the fear in his eyes. Real, bone-deep terror. Okay, I promise. Good. He kissed her forehead, then turned to his men. Get Jin-ho to the safe house. I want him alive for questioning. And sweep the property. I want to know everyone who was involved in this. The following week was chaos. Hyun held meetings around the clock, shoring up alliances, making examples of traitors, consolidating power. Jordina watched from the sidelines, learning the brutal politics of his world. She sat in on meetings. Hyun insisted, said he wanted her to understand exactly what she'd signed up for. She saw deals made with handshakes and threats, saw grown men beg for their lives, saw the cold calculation in Hyun's eyes as he decided who lived and who died. It should have terrified her. Maybe it did a little, but it also made sense in a twisted way. This was survival. This was the only language his world understood. You're quiet, Hyun said one night. They were in his office. He was reviewing reports while she sat curled up in the chair across from him. Just thinking. About. About how weeks ago all I was worried about was rent money, and now I'm watching you plan territorial negotiations with gang families. She shook her head. My life is weird. You can still leave. Stop offering me escape routes. I'm not going anywhere. She stood, walked around the desk to perch on the edge. How much longer until things settle? Could be days. Could be months. Jin Ho's betrayal exposed weaknesses in my organization. Others are circling, waiting to see if I'm vulnerable. Are you? He looked up at her, and his expression was raw. Yes, because of you. Because knowing you're in danger makes me sloppy, makes me emotional, makes me human. And in this world, that gets you killed. Then we make your humanity a strength instead of a weakness. How? By changing the game. Georgina had been thinking about this for days. Everyone expects you to be the same cold, brutal leader you've always been. What if you weren't? What if you used your new perspective to do things differently? That's not how this works. Why not? You're the boss. You make the rules. She slid off the desk, pacing. Jin Ho was right about one thing: you've changed. But instead of trying to hide it or fight it, what if you leaned into it? What if you transformed your organization into something new? You're talking about going legitimate. Yes, and about evolution. You still protect your territory, still handle your business. But you do it smarter. Less violence. More strategy. Build legitimate fronts. Invest in communities. Make people loyal because they respect you, not because they fear you. Hyun stared at her like she'd suggested flying to the moon. That would take years. And in the meantime, I'd look weak. Or you'd look innovative. Forward-thinking. Georgina leaned against the desk. Your sister wouldn't have wanted you to spend your whole life drowning in blood. She'd want you to be better. To build something that lasts. He was quiet for a long time. My father built this empire on fear. And his father before him. It's all I know. Then learn something new. With me. Together. Hyun pulled her into his lap, buried his face in her neck. You make me want impossible things. Good. Impossible things are the only ones worth wanting. Over the next month, Hyun began implementing changes. Small ones at first. Redirecting protection money into community programs. Opening legitimate businesses as fronts, restaurants, laundromats, tech companies. He was still involved in illegal activities, gambling, underground fighting, gray market imports, but he started shifting away from the most violent aspects. Started choosing negotiation over bloodshed when possible. It was slow, painful. Some of his own people resisted, but gradually the narrative shifted. Hyun wasn't weak. He was smart. He was building an empire that could survive in the modern world. And through it all, Georgina was by his side. She helped him navigate American business culture. Sat in on meetings and offered perspectives he'd never considered. Reminded him to be human when the monster threatened to take over. They celebrated Christmas together, 3 months late. Hyun took her back to Hanami Palace. He'd bought the full restaurant by then, and they sat at table 7 where it all began. I have something for you, he said, pulling out a small box. Georgina's heart stopped. Hyun, it's not what you think. Not yet. He opened it to reveal a necklace. Simple, elegant, with a small charm. It was my sister's. She wore it every day. I want you to have it. Tears burned Georgina's eyes. I can't take this. Please. She would have loved you. Would have wanted you to have it. He fastened it around her neck. And when I'm ready, when we've built something stable enough, safe enough, I'll give you a different box. One with a ring. If you'll still have me. You're proposing a future proposal? I'm promising you that I'm going to deserve you someday. That I'm going to build a life where you're safe and happy and we can have normal things. Like Sunday mornings and grocery shopping and... Georgina kissed him, cutting off the words. I don't need normal. I just need you. You deserve better than this. I deserve exactly this. I deserve you, flaws and all. I deserve a love that's real. She touched his face. And someday when you're ready, I'll say yes to that ring. But until then, this is enough. You're enough. They made love that night in his penthouse, slow and desperate and tender. And afterward, lying in the dark, Hyun held her close and whispered promises against her skin. But fate wasn't done testing them yet. 2 months later, Jordina woke up sick. Really sick. Throwing up, dizzy, exhausted. Hyun was immediately on high alert, convinced someone had poisoned her. He had his personal doctor come to the house. The doctor ran tests, came back with results. "Miss Alexander," he said carefully, "you're pregnant." The room tilted. Jordina grabbed the edge of the examination table. "I'm what? About 8 weeks along. Congratulations." Hyun, standing in the corner, looked like he'd been hit by a truck. The doctor left after confirming everything was healthy and normal, leaving Jordina and Hyun alone in the medical room he'd converted from a spare bedroom. The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. "Say something," Jordina finally whispered. Hyun ran his hands through his hair, the careful composure he always maintained completely shattered. "A baby. We're having a baby. We don't have to. I mean, if you don't want." The words hurt coming out. "It's my choice. But I wanted you to know I'd understand if—" "No." He crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled her into his arms. "No. God, no. Jordina, I want this. I want you. I want everything. I'm just terrified." "Of what?" "Of being my father. Of raising a child in this world. Of failing to protect both of you." His voice cracked. "My sister died because of what I do. Because someone wanted to hurt me. And now you're pregnant with my child. And every enemy I have will see that as leverage." Jordina pulled back to look at him. "Then we get out." "What?" "You heard me. We get out. You've been transitioning to legitimate business anyway. We accelerate the timeline. You hand off the dangerous operations to someone you trust, keep the legal enterprises, and we build something new. Something safe. It's not that simple. It never is. But you have options now. You're not the same man you were 7 months ago." She placed his hand on her still flat stomach. "We're going to be parents, Hyun. That means making hard choices, prioritizing differently, being brave enough to walk away from the life you knew." He stared at where his hand rested against her. "My father would call me weak. Your father is dead. And his way of doing things died with him." Jordina's voice was firm. "You get to choose what kind of father you want to be, what kind of legacy you want to leave. You don't have to repeat his mistakes." Hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he sank to his knees in front of her, pressed his forehead against her stomach. "I'm going to mess this up. Probably. So will I. That's what parents do." She ran her fingers through his hair. "But we'll mess it up together. And we'll love this baby so much that our mistakes won't matter as much as our effort. I don't know how to do this. How to be normal. Neither do I. Normal is boring anyway, but we'll learn." She pulled him up, kissed him softly. "We'll learn together." The next week, Hyun called a meeting with the heads of the major families. Jordina insisted on being there despite his protests. "We're partners," she'd said firmly. "That means I stand with you, especially now." The meeting took place in a private room at one of Hyun's legitimate restaurants. 8 family heads, all Korean men in their 40s and 50s, all looking at Jordina with varying degrees of suspicion and curiosity. "Gentlemen," Hyun began, standing at the head of the table with Jordina beside him. "Thank you for coming. I have an announcement. I'm transitioning out of our traditional operations. Over the next months, I'll be transferring my territories and businesses to those of you willing to maintain our agreements." The room erupted, voices overlapping, some angry, some confused. "You're abandoning us? What about loyalty? This is because of her, isn't it?" Hyun raised his hand, and the room fell silent. That was power, the ability to command attention without raising his voice. "This isn't abandonment. This is evolution. I'm keeping my legitimate enterprises and investing in new ones. I'm moving my family," he glanced at Jordina, "into a different phase of life. But I'm not disappearing. I'll still be available for consultation, for alliances, for support when needed. I'm just stepping back from the daily violence." An older man, Park Sung-min, leaned forward. "You're going soft. Rim Hyun, the man who once executed 3 rivals in one night, is walking away because some woman got pregnant? You think we don't know?" Hyun's jaw tightened, but Jordina squeezed his hand. "A warning. Stay calm." "I'm walking away," Hyun said carefully. Because I'm choosing a different kind of strength. The strength to build instead of destroy. To create instead of control. My father's way kept us in power, yes. But it also kept us in constant danger. Constant war. I want something different for my child. Your father would be ashamed, another man said. My father, Hyun replied quietly, died alone, paranoid, surrounded by enemies. He never knew peace, never knew love, never knew what it felt like to have something worth protecting beyond power. He looked at Jordina. I refuse to repeat his mistakes. I choose differently. Sungmin studied them both. And what makes you think we'll honor agreements with someone who's abandoned the old ways? Because I'm offering something you've never had before. Legitimacy. Hyun pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. I've been working with my lawyers and accountants. I can help you transition operations the same way I have. Open legitimate businesses. Build empires that your children can inherit without fear of arrest or assassination. The men looked at each other. This was new, unprecedented. There's another reason you'll work with me, Jordina said suddenly. All eyes turned to her. Hyun tensed beside her, but she continued. Because the world is changing. Law enforcement is getting smarter. Technology is making it harder to operate in the shadows. You can either evolve or you can wait until the FBI brings down your entire organization. And you are? Sungmin asked coldly. Jordina Alexander, Hyun's partner, mother of his child, and the daughter of FBI agent Silas Alexander, who spent 15 years investigating organized crime before he was killed in the line of duty. She let that sink in. I grew up hearing about investigations. I know how they think, how they operate. I can help you stay ahead of them. Hit the like button and subscribe now to know what happens next. The room was dead silent. You're using FBI intelligence? One man asked, shocked. I'm offering perspective, Jordina corrected. My father died trying to take down organizations like yours. I'm not interested in continuing his work, but I am interested in survival. Hyun's survival, our child's survival, and by extension, the survival of everyone at this table who's smart enough to see that the old ways are dying. Sungmin laughed suddenly. She's got steel, this one. I like her. He looked at Hyun. You've chosen well, and perhaps you're right. Perhaps it's time for change. The meeting ended with cautious agreements. Not everyone was happy, but no one declared war. It was a start. Outside, Hyun pulled Jordina aside. That was incredibly risky, mentioning your father. I know, but they needed to understand that we're serious. That this isn't just about going soft. It's about being smart. You continue to amaze me. He kissed her forehead. And terrify me. Good. Keeps things interesting. The next 6 months were a whirlwind. Hyun systematically extracted himself from illegal operations while expanding his legitimate businesses. Jordina helped him navigate American corporate culture, attended networking events, used her natural charm to build connections. They bought a new house, still secure, but more like a home than a fortress. Started preparing a nursery, took birthing classes where Hyun was the only former Mafia boss learning breathing techniques. This is ridiculous, he muttered during one session, practicing with a doll. I've negotiated hostage situations. Why is this tiny plastic baby so intimidating? Jordina laughed until she cried. Because negotiating with babies requires entirely different skills. Skills I don't have. You'll learn. We both will. But not everything was smooth. There were still threats. Still enemies who saw Hyun's transition as weakness. One attempt on their lives. A car bomb that Hyun's security caught before it could detonate. Another attempt poison in their food that the taster caught. Each incident made Hyun more paranoid, more protective. He hired more security, limited where Jordina could go, started pulling back from public appearances. Hyun, this has to stop, Jordina said one night, 8 months pregnant and exhausted. You can't protect me from everything. I can try. No, you can't. And you're suffocating me in the process. She struggled to her feet, hands on her lower back. I'm not some delicate flower. I'm having your baby, yes, but I'm still me. I still need to live. I almost lost you twice. I won't risk it again. Then you've already lost me. The words came out harsh, but she meant them. Because this isn't a partnership anymore. This is you making decisions without me. Controlling me. I didn't fall in love with a jailer, Hyun. He stared at her, hurt flashing across his face. I'm trying to keep you safe. I know, but there's a difference between safe and imprisoned. She softened slightly. I need you to trust that I can make smart decisions about my own safety. That we can figure this out together instead of you dictating terms. What if I make the wrong call? What if something happens to you or the baby because I wasn't careful enough? Then we deal with it. Together. She took his hand, placed it on her belly where their baby was currently doing gymnastics. Feel that? That's life, Hyun. Undeniable. Messy. Unpredictable life. You can't control it. You can only live it and hope you make more right choices than wrong ones. He was quiet, feeling their baby move under his palm. I'm terrified, he finally admitted. Every moment of every day. I'm terrified. Me too. But fear doesn't get to win. Love does. Their daughter was born on December 25th, Christmas Day. The same day Hyun's sister had died 3 years earlier. Jordina went into labor at 3 a.m. Hyun, for all his careful planning and preparation, completely panicked. Hospital. Now. Move. Go. Why is everyone moving so slowly? Hyun. Breathe, Jordina said, gripping his hand through a contraction. We have time. No time. The baby is coming. Hospital. Now. They made it with hours to spare. The delivery was long and painful and Hyun held Jordina's hand through all of it, whispering encouragement in Korean and English, looking more terrified than she'd ever seen him. And then, at 6:47 p.m. on Christmas Day, their daughter entered the world screaming. She's perfect, the doctor said, placing the baby on Jordina's chest. Congratulations. Hyun stared at his daughter like she was a miracle he didn't deserve. She's so small. She's 7 pounds. That's average. She's tiny and perfect. And his voice broke. She has your eyes. The baby did have Jordina's eyes, but she had Hyun's nose, his serious expression even as a newborn, his thick black hair. What should we name her? Jordina asked, exhausted but happy. Hyun was quiet for a moment. Nari. It means lily in Korean. It was my sister's favorite flower. Nari Alexander Rim. Jordina tested the name. I love it. Nari Rose Alexander Rim, Hyun added. Rose for your middle name. Jordina started crying. Blame the hormones or the exhaustion or the overwhelming love flooding through her. But she couldn't stop the tears. It's perfect. Hyun held them both, his girls, and for the first time in 3 years, Christmas didn't feel like a day of mourning. Felt like rebirth. 1 year later, December 23rd, exactly 2 years after Jordina had whispered those fateful words, Hyun took her back to Hanami Palace. The restaurant was closed for a private event. Table 7 was decorated with flowers and candles. What's all this? Jordina asked, bouncing Nari on her hip. Their daughter was walking now, getting into everything, completely fearless. This, Hyun said, taking Nari and handing her to his most trusted guard, who'd become something of an uncle figure, is where our story began. He led Jordina to table 7, sat her down. 2 years ago, you walked up to me and whispered a song. You had no idea who I was, no idea what you were starting. You were just a woman who needed money and was brave enough to take a ridiculous dare. Stupid enough, Jordina corrected, smiling. Brave, he insisted. And in that moment you changed everything. You made me feel again, made me want to be better, made me believe I could be something other than my father's son. He pulled out a small box. I promised you once that I would build a life where I deserved you, where we could have normal things. Hyun, I'm not there yet. I'm still figuring out who I am outside of the life I left behind. I still make mistakes, still struggle with being the man you deserve. He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring. But I'm trying. Every day I'm trying. And I want to spend the rest of my life trying. With you. If you'll have me. Jordina's eyes filled with tears. You already know my answer. I need to hear you say it. Yes, yes, I'll marry you. I'll marry you today, tomorrow, whenever you want. Hyun slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her to himself and kissed her like his life depended on it. Applause erupted around them. The staff, the same people who dared Georgina 2 years ago, had been hiding in the kitchen, waiting. Jessica rushed out, crying. "You're getting married." Stephen grinned. "Best $500 we ever spent." The wedding was planned for Christmas Day, 1 year exactly since Nari's birth. 5 years since Hyun's sister's death. They were reclaiming the date, turning it into something beautiful. The ceremony took place at Hanami Palace, of course. Where else? Table 7 became their altar. Georgina wore a dress that incorporated both traditional African patterns and Korean hanbok elements. Hyun wore a suit with subtle Korean embroidery. Nari was their flower girl, toddling down the aisle, dropping petals everywhere while guests cooed. Both families were there. Georgina's mother, who'd flown in from Atlanta and spent the whole time crying happy tears. Hyun's uncle, who'd taken over the last of the illegal operations and actually approved of his brother's choices. Former associates who'd become friends. The restaurant staff. Security guards who'd become family. Even Park Sung-min attended, bringing an extravagant gift. "You were right," he told Hyun during the reception. "Change isn't weakness. My grandson starts business school next fall. Legitimate business. Because of the path you showed us." The ceremony itself was beautiful. They exchanged vows in English and Korean. Promised to love each other through danger and peace, through chaos and calm, through all the messy complications of their unusual life. "I promise," Georgina said, "to always call you out when you're being too controlling, to stand beside you, not behind you, to remind you every day that you're more than your past." "I promise," Hyun said, voice thick with emotion, "to let you be strong, to trust your judgment, to build the life we both deserve, and to never stop trying to be worthy of the chance you gave me when you whispered those words." When it was time for their first dance, the DJ, at Hyun's specific request, played Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You." The entire room laughed, then fell quiet as Hyun and Georgina swayed together, holding each other close. "Did you ever imagine," Georgina whispered, "that a stupid dare would lead to this?" "Not in a million years." He pulled back to look at her. "But I'm grateful every day that you were brave enough, desperate enough, crazy enough to approach my table. I was terrified. I know. I could see your hands shaking." He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his face. "But you did it anyway, and you've been doing brave things ever since. Staying with me, loving me, building this life with me. You make it sound heroic. I just fell in love. Love is heroic, especially the kind that risks everything." The song ended, but they kept dancing, lost in each other. Around them, their friends and family celebrated. Nari toddled around with cake on her face. Jessica and Stephen argued about who really deserved credit for the dare. Hyun's guards tried to teach Georgina's mother Korean drinking games. It was chaotic and beautiful and perfect. Later, after the reception wound down and guests started leaving, Georgina and Hyun stood at table 7 one last time. Nari was asleep in Hyun's arms, exhausted from all the excitement. "Thank you," Hyun said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing past the monster. For believing I could be better. For giving me a family." He looked down at their sleeping daughter. "For giving me everything." Georgina leaned against him, utterly content. "You gave me everything too. A home, purpose, a love I didn't know existed. We saved each other." "Yeah, we did." They stood there in comfortable silence. A former Mafia boss, a former struggling waitress, and their daughter, in the restaurant where a whispered song had changed everything. Outside, snow began to fall. Rare for Los Angeles, but perfect for the moment. Christmas magic, Georgina thought. Undeniable, messy, complicated Christmas magic. "I love you," Hyun whispered. "More than I thought I could ever love anything." "I love you too. Merry Christmas, husband." "Merry Christmas, wife." And in that moment, in that restaurant, at that table where everything began, they had everything they'd ever wanted. Not a perfect life. Their life would never be simple or safe or easy. But it was real. It was theirs. It was built on second chances and brave choices and a love that had survived impossible odds. Sometimes, Georgina reflected, the most dangerous thing you can do is take a dare. Sometimes, it's the best decision you'll ever make. And sometimes, just sometimes, whispering a Christmas song to a scary stranger changes everything. All she'd wanted was $500. What she got was a love story for the ages. If you enjoyed the story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next dramatic tale. Drop a comment below telling us what you thought about Jordina and Hyun's journey. Would you have taken the dare? And don't forget to like this video to help us share the story with others who love romance, danger, and holidays miracles. Also, dare to live this coming year. Everything you want is at the other side of a dare. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.